Our next TED-like talker is the inimitable Marjorie Perry. Marjorie is the president and CEO of MZM Construction and a true force to be reckoned with. Her bio is long and impressive and sensational, so please, again, check it out on the QR code. But the most recent thing she added is a degree from Harvard University. Now, let's stop and think about that for a moment, okay? This very accomplished woman who has seen some years, wonderful, inspiring years in her career, said, you know what? I'm not done yet. Right? And this teaches us all that we may think we are all so great and we've arrived and we've accomplished everything yet to accomplish, and yet lifelong learning and the consistent ability to drive to be the next best iteration of ourselves is what encompasses this amazing woman. Let's welcome Marjorie Perry.
Good afternoon. So I'm going to talk to you today about what was I thinking. You ever have that come out of your mouth? What was I thinking? Why am I doing that? Who called me to do that? Who said I could be this great, powerful woman in America? And I'm black and brown. I'm going to talk about that today. My journey, some of you have heard it before. I'll talk about it a little bit, where my aspirations and where my dreams came from. I used to work for United Airlines back in the day. And I was director of marketing and sales to open up the 767 back and forth from here to China and to Japan. Now, let me just say, my first experience of going to Japan, I took the whole wasabi and put it in my mouth, okay? I turned the restaurant out, okay? Little girl from Newark, put the whole green scoop in her mouth and I can't breathe. My first experience in Japan. But one of the things that was very special with this trip is that Ralph Lauren was one of my charges. We were trying to get him off of Pan Am, TWA, and get him on United. So back then, flights had to lay over either in Seattle or San Francisco. So that means I had to be with him like 36 hours in his entourage. This is before social media. Just an amazing man. So I'd sit with him. What do you like? What do you don't like? And I tell you, everybody in here, you must be a self-sales person. That's number one. Learn to sell not only you, your product, but yourself. So I would sit with him and he would always say to me, why are you working for somebody? Why don't you think about entrepreneurship? Well, how do you spell that? I don't know anything about it. I said, no, I'm just here to make sure you're comfortable and you're going to switch off of Pan Am and fly on United and take that over to China and Japan to do your shopping. He says, Marge, I promise you, one day they're going to offer you a promotion and it's going to be a 3% raise. I said, sir, I do not have the entrepreneurial gene or whatever it was that you're talking about. Sure enough, I was able to win his whole business over to United. And as a result, they offered me a promotion to go to Chicago for 3%. I quit that day. So I want to give you a context of what I was not thinking when I quit my job that day. Quit my job, I came back to Newark. I grew up in the projects right off of Central Avenue, between 7th and 11th Avenue. And when we grew up, you didn't have a lot of role models in the community to pull from. We just didn't. But I was going to be this great entrepreneur. One of the things that he would talk to me about a lot, or I would listen to them in their conversations, they were doing so much philanthropic work, and that just excited me to be maybe I could go back and I can make a difference in the world. So that's where the vision came from him. Indirect, but that's where the vision came from. So I moved along and did what I had to do. I said, hey, I could do this. What do? I started a construction company with two guys and don't know construction. What was I thinking? No, I wasn't thinking. I had no idea what I was saying. All I know is that the vision was bigger than the journey at the time, because I didn't even know what the journey was going to be. And the next thing that I learned is that when I did start the business with these two guys who did have construction background, they didn't have business background. I had that. We won our first contract. It was worth about maybe $50,000 they thought we had. I said, no, that's called cost of goods. No, we didn't make any money yet. We may not make it all. 2 years after that, I bought them out. What was I thinking? I don't know construction. I know nothing about construction. What, 2x4? What? Black ceiling? What? Dimmer lights? What? Hi-hats? What? I don't know. But my vision was so strong because one of the things that was driving it a little bit, I didn't want to stay in poverty anymore. I grew up in poverty. And now I'm flying 767s first class around the world and I'm seeing what you can become. Make the vision bigger than the dream. Now, you may not know what you're thinking while you're doing that, but go for it anyway. So I start the business, I get it going, I go out my first contract, I'm smiling, I'm smart, I'm good, I don't know construction, I lose my first $1 million, my second job in. Now that's just dumb. That was so painful, but life-changing all at the same time. What was I thinking? I don't know construction. I let a bunch of vultures come in on me, and then I didn't even know how deep racism and sexism was until that time. They reminded me that you're a woman and you're black, and I'm not even going to use the word that they use because that's how I was identified. What was I thinking? What they didn't realize is that I am from what they would say the hood and understand how to fight. Let's go. Now, I might eat Spam for a couple of years. My retained deficits, you would just absolutely say, how is she managing to run this business and this whole system? And she has no money. Relationships. I called everybody. Remember I said early, it's about selling. I sold myself. If you help me, I promise you I will make it. No, I wasn't thinking. I just know I had no money and I had to keep going. So we move along, I get through, it set my business back by 5 years losing that $1 million because you have no idea. I went back, worked on my MBA and went back to work on my civil engineer degree. What was I thinking? Again, I wasn't thinking because the mission was bigger than the failure. You have to have a big enough vision and picture of where you want to go. And I knew that one day I wanted to be a huge philanthropic leader. I knew one day that I wanted to make a difference. I knew one day I did not want my color to be the reason why I'm not successful. Wasn't having it. What are you talking about? Ralph Lauren talked to me. He's white male. You're going to talk to me too. Because I'm just going to stay in your face until you pay attention and give me the respect that's due. What was I thinking? What wasn't I thinking? Well, that's not as easy as it sounds. It is absolutely amazing as I went from one level to the next level to the next level, the barriers to entry, we didn't use those words much back then until I went to grad school. What's a barrier to entry? Is that those little yellow things you put out in front of the door? Barrier to entry. Had to learn the hard way on the different barriers. Number 2, I had to learn how to be a strategic thinker. Number 3, I had to think about how can I think faster and quicker than you do. Now that I did get good at. I could see him coming up. Not today, Johnny. Go sit down. I had one quick story. I won a big $10 million contract, federal contract down in Washington, D.C. Of course, I was the only woman there and the only woman of color. And they wouldn't acknowledge me, but it was my contract. So I brought a bag of peanuts. I sat over in the corner and just started shelling peanuts. They finally went around the room and said, well, who are you? I said, I'm Marjorie Perry. Oh, you're Miss Perry? I am, but you're black. And said it. I'm black and beautiful, and I have to pay you. How about that? All right, gentlemen. Let the meeting begin. Hardship is automatically going to happen in entrepreneurship. 90% of the time, we are lone rangers, even if we're in a room of 40 people, because our minds are always thinking, what's next? How do we adapt? Game changer, disruptions. This is coming, that's coming. The laws have changed. New governor comes in, new statistics. This is held back. Incentives aren't happening. It's constant when you're an entrepreneur. You've got to dance and skip and hop all the time. So it's not for the faint of heart. Now let's have the big word, the S word, scale. 90% of businesses in the United States stay at the boutique level. They never scale. And let me tell you why they don't scale. One, you get in your own way, because you got to break up your psychology and your mindset as to why you are doing, why you're doing it, why you continue to do it. Two, we tend to work with people we like. Three, we tend to network with the C level and the B level versus going in and talking to the president of the company. This is scale. This is boutique. Where do you want to be? What's the dance? How do you want to push it forward? Recently, the pandemic, as you know, came along. If people weren't ready, in fact, Michelle and I were on a call, if you were not ready for the pandemic, we lost 40% of our entrepreneurial businesses. We were able to flourish during the pandemic because we were ready before a pandemic. And what does that look like? You can be adaptive on a dime. So I'm moving along. I'm still not thinking. I'm still trying to push ahead. I'm looking at these bigger and bigger deals. But I didn't have the mindset to go to the $200 million level. Didn't realize that. Got accepted into Harvard. And I said, oh my goodness, let me go up here. I don't know what I'm going to do at Harvard at this age, but I'm going to go, because life keeps changing and the rules of business keeps changing. So if you want to stay relevant and you want to get to the next level, you must continue education. And I mean superior education. Not online sometimes. Online is great, but the relationships are better. So I get up to Harvard. I had my cute little dress. I was ready. Well, the first guy in my living group, he makes $500 million. I'm like, oh my God, let me pack my bags. I had nothing to talk about. So one of my professors, because they give you a mentor when you get up to Harvard, he said, well, why would you leave? We accepted you. I said, oh no, this guy's a billionaire and she's doing $500 million. And I was just telling one of our scholars here where I met a woman from Nigeria that's doing $700 million a year. What am I going to talk to him about? The best advice he gave me, he said, you think too small. Did you hear what I said? Sometimes we think we're thinking big, but we're really thinking like this. How do you break up that conversation? How do you make sure that you are thinking big? And big means global, and it could still be in a boutique mode. However you're doing business today will not be the same next year. I can guarantee you that. That's how quick things are changing. Inflation is going to be a major issue next year, especially for medium and small businesses, because the interest rates have gone up so much. How do you navigate those waters? So I went to class and I had to do a pitch, my first pitch in front of these. How do you have 18 people in your living group making over 500 million? But the stock of those individuals takes you through the roof. The A-listers. Now, some of them were jerks, so you just leave them alone, okay? Because they made so much money, they didn't make any sense, okay? I'm like, listen, you're just a little bit too silly for me, okay? Oh, no, Marge, I'm really just an egotist, and, my private jet, we can go down to Florida for the weekend. I don't want to go nowhere with you, okay? You're annoying. So because you got to own your power now in front of these people. You can't go into odd mode. You got to learn, gather, and be. Because I'm just as powerful as you are. I may not have a $500 million business, but I sure have a $500 million mindset. Did you hear what I said? $500 million mindset. It's not about the dollars in the bank. It's about how you think. What's the thinking? What's the thought? 90% of people that I mentor and coach, and I mentor and coach a lot of businesses, they come to me and they do not get to the point of why. Well, I like you doing it this way. I asked you why. Think about your why, your push, your pull. I have failed so many times, I think I should just get a plaque on the wall. I failed again, because there's always something new to learn each and every day. So I'm up there at Harvard, and I go in and I talked about, I was an MBE, WBE. My professor came over. We don't talk about MBEs, WBEs here. You're just a major business. Another game changer. Because sometimes I was identifying too much with being an MBE, WBE. That's a great acronym. It might open the door, but you got to think like this. Because I was able to come back from Harvard and work on my first $200 million deal. Stumbling, falling, whatever I have to do, because I need to get to succession someday. And how many people here have their succession plan? Probably not many. And what does a succession look like? I had to become an expert in finance. I had to be an expert in strategy. I had to become an expert in absolutely kicking your butt when you want to take me out, and I have to get there in front of you. As I say, you don't want to mess with her. She's a little crazy. Well, if you go into entrepreneurship, we are a little crazy. So don't come in here if you don't have anything to talk about. So I came back and I failed immediately at my first $200 million deal that I was going to work on, be a portion of it. They cut me out because racism came again, because I hit another wall of barrier to entry. He said to me, well, do you have money for equity? Excuse you? Did you ask me before you cut me out the deal? You cut me out the deal and didn't even ask the question. So you know they're paying for it today, right? Fix it. And they're fixing it, because my power is just as equal to your power. I don't care how much money you have. That's the gift of playing in the field of all the things that we're doing. That's the things that we're going to be and how we're going to be. So I leave you with this. When you're in business, you're also in life. And your mindset has to match the goals and strategy of the organization and the business. And if you can marry those two with the highest level of integrity, peace, love, and joy, family and boundaries, then you have a successful business. Because you don't have to be a scalable business, but you may want to be a great boutique business and know the difference. So I leave you with this. I was not thinking, but today I am thinking, and I am Marjorie Perry. Thank you.